Hey, welcome to The Edge Life, where we discuss real life issues and bring you real life solutions for your soul rooted in the Word of God.
We're just two busy parents who are on a quest to fulfill our God-given purpose, all while balancing family, ministry, and secular jobs.
On this episode of the Edge Life 7 podcast, we will talk about the topic of healthy boundaries. But before we get into that, we want to get into our highlight and featured collection of the day. This is a t-shirt by Verb BTA. It is Racism is a Sickness. It is the t-shirt. It is what we are wearing today. If you want one of these shirts, hey,
You know we had to cap it off with Jesus. Edge life, you're too close to the ledge. We gon' push you forward a few steps ahead. It's that edge life. Oh, oh, gotta get it in your head, baby. Welcome to the edge life. You're too close to the ledge. We gon' push you forward a few steps ahead. It's that edge life. Oh, oh, gotta get it in your head. Welcome to the edge life.
I still love the intro. Intro is banging, man.
Intro is fly.
I don't care what nobody
Dr.
says
Phil,
that they
or Will. Dr.
Who?
Phil.
Doctor Who.
Dr. Will.
Look, we got all kind of things going on. Listen, I'm gonna tell you right now, the enemy
This
is
is gonna
all
be good.
man, the enemy is coming all after us, so we know that this is going
my
to be
goodness.
good. If the audio don't sound too good, just hang out because we're recording this for the podcast anyway, and you'll be able to check it out.
Video or the audio keeps bouncing back and forth between built-in and our roadcaster.
That's crazy, ain't it?
Yeah, that's never happened before. So we know this is going to be good. So please, again, hang in there with us. We will have better quality audio. You can go back and check it out again.
Yeah.
Anywhere that podcasts are listened to.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Hey, yeah.
So how you feeling today?
Man, today has been a long, hot day. So I just have to say, I guess it was Friday.
Yeah.
So Friday was the official day that every vehicle we own.
Every vehicle, y'all.
Every one. So we own 3 vehicles currently in operation. We don't count Trey's vehicle. He owns that. He pays for that. Every vehicle we pay the note on has 0 air.
Yep.
And it's
Hot.
It's the hottest.
This Hotlanta, y'all, is hot.
Yes. So we had to drive over an hour to church
Yep.
in the hot.
In the hot.
Yep. And then back
In the hot.
in the hot. And but you were wet
Yeah, I was wet.
from
'Cause
baptisms.
we had an awesome day, y'all. We wound up.
That
we,
was
we
awesome.
had one person that we were going to baptize today. It was a special day at Crossover
Yeah.
Church ATL. We wound up baptizing 9. So I mean, what we're gonna say? We're gonna say no. I mean, so
no.
wade in the water.
Everybody that want to get in.
Everybody,
get in.
come on!
Yes.
And it was cool. It was a really cool day.
Yeah, it's a family affair. But he had some really nice shoes on, y'all.
Oh man, yeah.
Some Off-Whites.
Yeah. But God is good, man. So the Off-Whites did get soaking wet, but
They're dry.
Well, I haven't
I
checked
think.
them. I haven't checked, but
Yeah.
it's gonna be okay. It's gonna
And
be
then
okay.
we came home to Rome, and then
Yep.
we headed back to Cartersville
Yep.
to connect with my bro in love,
Yep.
Mario and Kristen, and their crew of 5.
Yep.
And so, yeah,
It was cool.
it was awesome.
And
so
then we
stood
got these
outside.
fresh shirts on too. Y'all saw them earlier. The fresh shirts that we had on. Our brother Keon and his company Verb BTA. They got all these cool shirts.
Yes.
Racism is a sickness, and it says "Get well soon."
So it comes in an awesome little package. Looks super nice.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Comes in that.
Yeah.
Little
Little card thing in there.
So pretty classy. That BTA says "Bout that action."
About that action, boss.
About that action. So we've got to be people of action.
That's right.
But be people of action, but stay between the lines.
Come on. Because
Right?
we're talking about boundaries today.
Yeah, we're talking about boundaries, right? I posted earlier today that if you want to score,
Mm-hmm.
you got to keep the ball in play.
You got to keep the ball in play. Absolutely.
And so every sport, I can't think of any sport that doesn't have boundaries.
Yeah.
I mean, what good would that be if you could just run around everywhere?
Well, that would be like the old school game we used to play called Kill the Man with the Ball, right?
Yeah.
and literally everybody was
Poor
chasing
man
you,
with the
trying to kill you. Like literally, it was everybody against you, and that's what happens when you don't have any boundaries. It really does become everybody against you.
Yeah. Only in certain sports when you go out of bounds, like, maybe like football, when time is ticking down and you need to stop the clock.
Yep.
You want a little out route.
Yep.
Get out of bounds quick, stop the clock, so you can move it on down the field. So there are some strategies. But we want to give you some strategies today.
Absolutely.
To score in relationships.
Absolutely.
So this is good for any relationship you have, whether it's with your spouse or you're in a dating relationship, you have children, you're just living in the world. You work, whatever it is that you do. It's important that you understand there are some places where you need to establish boundaries.
Right.
And so we're going to talk about it today.
Well, and before we jump into it, let me just say this, because you all know everything that we do is rooted in the Word of God, and
yes,
as we've talked about this, we really went all the way back to the beginning of the Bible, and we're looking at the book of Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 2, and what we see there in the beginning of Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 2 is it's all about creation, right?
Yes.
So God is creating the world, really. He's creating the heavens and the universe, and He's creating this and that, and He's creating the sun and the moon and the water and the oceans, and He's creating, ultimately, He creates us. But once He creates us, there at the end of chapter 1, he specifically gives Adam an assignment. He says, listen, I'm creating you. I'm giving you dominion. I'm giving you authority. I want you to be able to create, right? Be a creative being just like I am here. And universally, I want you to be able to do that very same thing here. So then he goes on a little further into chapter 2, and we see when God continues creating, and then He creates Eve, and He's like, boom, here's something specific and special for you. And He gives them an assignment to take care of that garden. And He tells them very specifically in chapter 2, He says, you can do anything you want. But that tree over there, you cannot eat from that tree right there. What He was doing,
the knowledge of good
and evil, right? And what He was doing there, He was literally setting up boundaries, right, for man, saying, if you stay within the boundaries, you will be in plenty, you will be prosperous, you will be able to do everything that I've created you to do, and it will be good.
Right.
But if you go outside my boundaries and you do what I told you to do, he says this, you will surely die.
Yes. That's what He said.
And that hits me, because we don't typically look at the book of Genesis and think about God setting up boundaries. But the truth of the matter is, even with boundaries, if we stay within the lines, if we stay within the game, if we do the things that God is speaking to us to do inside of that realm, we're good. But the moment we go outside of that's where we'll surely die, and that's where we have issues. So it's like that, as you said, in marriages and relationships. It's like that on your workplace. It's like that just, in one-on-one dating relationships. It's like that wherever we go. So that's kind of why we're talking about boundaries.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, boundaries they serve twofold.
Yeah.
So death comes when we're not properly protected, and also when we don't feel fulfilled.
Right.
So boundaries, as long as they stayed within the boundaries,
yes,
their purpose was fulfilled. And in that purpose, they had fruitfulness,
right,
multiplication, dominion, authority.
Right.
But outside of those boundaries, they had none of those things but death.
Right.
And so God's boundaries provided their protection and fulfillment of purpose. And that's so, so important for you to understand that when you stay within the proper boundaries in relationships, you find fulfillment, right? It's always when we go outside of that in our relationships that our relationships are strained.
Right.
And full of conflict. And furthermore, we don't just see that in Genesis, but the entire Bible itself is, guidelines,
right,
best practices for
right,
living an abundant life, right?
Exactly.
All of the things the instructions that we need to follow to be protected and fulfilled in life are found there,
right,
within the Word of God.
Right.
And so if we stay within those parameters, we will be protected,
Mm-hmm.
and we will also be fulfilled. And
Yep.
so that's so important. So I'm glad, that you mentioned that. That's really the basis.
That's the basis of all this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because again, no matter where you are, you got to be able to stay in bounds. So a couple of things, right? Let's just give them a couple of things. We'll give you a couple of boundaries, couple of things to think through, and then we'll jump into the middle of this, and then we'll come back and give you 4 specific keys to help you to be able to define those boundaries.
Yeah.
Sound like a plan?
Yes.
High five. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. What's the first one?
So we want to talk about where you're out of bounds in relationships, right? First of all, you need to know where the out of bounds is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we see where we got the core. Where's the out of bounds? What does the out of bounds look like?
Right.
So out of bounds in relationship number 1 looks like you ignoring someone.
That's out of bounds.
That's out of bounds.
That's out of bounds. Yeah.
That's like a technical foul. You out of bounds.
Yes.
Yes. You cannot ignore people. So looking at it from a spouse in a marriage, sometimes we're upset or angry. You ever done that where you just turn in bed and you just ignore them, or they didn't.
Oh, is that the back to back?
Yeah, the back to back.
Oh.
Or didn't take the trash out,
right?
And so or whatever perturbed you,
mm-hmm.
and so you're like, I'm just not talking to him today. I ain't talking to him. I ain't cooking him no dinner. I ain't washing no clothes this week.
Okay.
So I'm just completely ignoring. I'm pretending as if the other person doesn't exist. We do this even on the job, too.
Yeah, we do.
Right?
We do.
We get mad at somebody for whatever reason. Maybe they stepped out of bounds with you. But instead of you dealing with the conflict head on, you literally just ignore them.
Right. And honestly, when we do that, that's just not a good thing.
No.
And I don't know if you've ever been the recipient of that. That is not good at all. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't like to be ignored. When I get ignored, it kind of makes me to be honest.
You be trying to fight somebody. Tell the truth.
No, I give the same treatment. Okay, you don't want to talk to me. I don't want to talk to you. But honestly, all it does is it continues to allow the conflict to just fester.
Right.
I mean, you're really just ignoring it, or maybe you're not sure how to deal with some place where you've been out of bounds, and so you're not returning text messages, you're not answering phone calls, you're not responding to Messenger or anything like that with someone.
Right.
Whatever it is, just deal with it head on.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And go ahead and move forward, because all you're doing is you're wasting your time.
Right.
You're wasting your opportunity to connect with that person, or to connect with somebody else, or to do something else.
Right.
So that's the first out of bounds, is just ignoring someone.
Yep. And I'll say this. Let's go into number 2. That number 2 is really withholding it, and withholding intimacy, or withholding your love from an individual, right? So, again, if this was a spouse, it's really withholding that intimacy. And truly, within a marriage, intimacy is all about the connection between you and your spouse. Yeah. So when you withhold intimacy in there, it's literally like you're driving a wedge in between the thing that's supposed to connect both of you.
Absolutely. I'll just go ahead and go there, since he's like being shy in some kind of way. Listen, stop withholding sex from your spouse because you want.
My mama watching this. My mama.
Your mama has sex too.
No, she don't. My mama do.
Listen.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
It's okay.
Woo!
You,
somebody help me, y'all.
At least
somebody help me.
3 times she did. At least 3 times. At least 3 times. But seriously, as we counsel in marriages, we see this so much. Like that's one of the first questions we ask when we see that there's a lot of hostility or conflict. Right. There's a disconnect. We ask, when's the last time you had sex? When's the last time that you've truly been intimate with your spouse? You cannot withhold that. If we're taking that, to another sort of relationship, and we're looking at where the different types of intimacy is appropriate, right? Maybe for whatever reason, you're not hugging your parent or your sibling or something like that, or you refuse. You ever seen this? In sports, this happens a lot. When you just don't shake hands.
Yeah.
you get you mad because you lost. I'm gonna
Yeah,
take my ball
yeah,
and go
yeah.
home.
Yeah.
And so you're not even gonna show that common courtesy, that intimacy, that touch. Like that person doesn't deserve it. So yes, see, your mom just confirmed.
She lying,
does.
y'all. She lying.
She
lying.
does
she
in
lying.
fact
She lying.
have sex.
She lying. She lying. She lying. Man, let me move on because you
No,
look.
but seriously, this is important.
No,
you know,
it's actually very important.
Because you like what you said.
It's a connection.
And you know what? Sexual intercourse was made for marriage. It's the only special kind of love that's set aside for marriage. That's the way God created it. And so when you withhold that, and you're out of bounds for sure by doing that, and you just allow the enemy to get a foothold.
That's right.
And to begin to plant all kinds of seeds.
That's right.
Of discontentment.
And
anger and frustration and back and forth. And I'm sorry, that is just, sexual intimacy is not something you should withhold from your spouse.
Right. Well, and to that, when sexual intimacy is withheld, as you spoke about a second ago, it plants all different kinds of seeds.
Yes.
And those seeds are the beginning of some trees that we do not want to see grow.
I don't even know if they're trees.
They're
like weeds.
I don't know what they are. but think about it, especially intimacy from a man's perspective. When a man feels how do I say when a man does not feel fulfilled in those ways,
wanted,
right,
desirable.
They begin asking those questions. Is there something wrong with me?
And I think women do that too, but I think men are more physical beings.
Right.
Most men, ladies out there who are extremely physical, don't be offended.
Right.
But I think men really do need that affirmation. And when you look at love languages, a lot of men, their number one love language is physical touch.
Right.
And, by withholding that,
we open the door.
You do. And you actually limit your ability to get the love or to get the response that you would like to have. Love is not supposed to expect anything in return.
Come on, somebody.
So
y'all can tweet that out.
At that. So true love in marriages gives everything with an expectation of nothing in return. So there should be no reason to withhold anything, right? You give everything with no expectation of anything in return. But in your giving, there's fulfillment, right?
Yeah.
But when you do withhold, if you're expecting for that person to connect with you more, you're actually going to get the opposite of what you think you're going to get.
Right. It's going to be shut down.
Plus, all the other stuff that you say gets, the distension that gets planted between spouses. And so, don't do that.
Yeah, and since we went there, we're all the way in the pool now.
Yeah, because your mom done jumped in.
Hey, we all the way in there now. But I'm gonna say this, that we have talked to a lot of people where that right there, that seed, it did something that damaged that relationship, and it took a long time to heal and to mend. It went to infidelity issues. It went to pornography issues, right? For men and women, right?
Yeah.
So it's emotional, like right.
Yeah.
So they're on the phone and the guy, the guy, right, or the lady, all those kinds of things.
Yeah, you have emotional affairs at times. It leads to all sorts of things, and honestly, they say that finance is the number one killer, but I guarantee that those people who are having financial problems got problems in the bedroom. Yeah. And I think if we probably boiled it down, I always think about statistics and studies and things like that. It's just my analytical mind. I wonder how much is really intimacy is going on, because if there's any conflict at all, there is no connection. If they were connecting, it just melts away everything.
Yep.
It really does. And those of us who are married, you ever been mad and then you have makeup sex or whatever? It just kind of makes. He's trying not to smile right now.
Can we get mad?
We don't get mad.
I'm joking.
I mean, we could maybe try to get mad. You want to go out of bounds? You want to ignore me?
Sleep like this tonight.
Be like, hey, hey, you won't be mad anymore.
I won't.
So
I
it
won't.
is physical intimacy, just, in all, seriousness,
Yeah.
is diffusing.
Right.
So I would guarantee that if there's other conflict in the marriage, there's probably an issue in the bedroom.
Right.
Yeah.
We're going to move on to the next one?
Yeah.
Let's do
so
it.
number 3.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So number 3 is gossip or negative speaking.
Come on, somebody. Let's talk about that.
May not necessarily always be gossip, but
Let's talk
negative
about it.
speaking about another.
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't matter. So listen, seek godly counsel and be careful about letting your family into your marriage.
Yeah. Friends.
Your friends, your family.
All of them.
All of them. So, find some, good, wise counsel, maybe
Right.
a couple that's older than you, whatever the case may be. And this is specifically talking about marriages because, my mom, I saw the way my mom would come up to the school, y'all. You mess with my mama's child, and I know my mother-in-law is the same way. And probably many of you out there have mamas like that, right? That if you mess with their children,
yeah,
and I'm one of those moms, don't mess with my child.
It's going down.
Yes, because I will have studied your policies at the school, and you will think I'm a lawyer, and you will not be sure if I'm somebody's mama or I'm coming to get some papers on you. So, yes. So, don't talk about your spouse, especially to your family, especially early on, because they want to defend, they want to protect, they want to take care of you, and it's really hard for them to be unbiased in the situation and not put their feelings in there. So, keep them out. Don't speak negatively to your spouse, because you know what you do? You open the door for them to speak negatively in return.
Yep.
Yeah. Even like at work, okay, so you have some conflict with someone. All you're doing when you talk negatively about a coworker is just keep the conflict going.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. I have been in some workplaces where, man, people would just talk bad about each other.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to work together. We spend more time there than we do with our families during, waking hours anyways. So just don't do it. Don't put your mouth negatively on anybody. Not your spouse, not a coworker, not your friend, not your family. Don't speak negatively. That's out of bounds.
Yep, that is definitely out of bounds.
And the second component to that is allowing someone to speak negatively about the people you care about in front of you and not dealing with it.
Yep.
Man, this happens at work a lot. It's like water cooler talk.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear somebody talking negative about somebody.
Yeah,
and you don't step up and say anything, and it's not right.
Right.
Or you don't excuse yourself.
Right there is one of my big pet peeves. Like you can talk about me all day long, but if you talk about my wife or you talk about my children, we have problems. And I'm just being honest. I mean, you can say what you want to say, but I'm telling you right now, one thing you will not do around me is talk about my wife or my children, because they are an extension of me. So if you are talking about them, then you are talking about me. So we're going to have issues, and we're going to have a conversation, and I'm serious about that. Like literally, y'all have to pray for me, because I'll have to repent later on, because I'm for real about my family. You're not going to do that. And honestly, from a boundary standpoint, we cannot allow other people to talk about those that are close to us. That's out of bounds.
Right, and it goes back to what we said in the beginning.
Yep.
Because protection, to stay in bounds, protects. And so by allowing other people to go out of bounds with that kind of speaking,
right,
you don't do that. And so many times, like Philip and I, we know and love Kai.
Mm-hmm.
Kai has some issues with being able to deal with his anger when he gets frustrated about not being able to do things.
Mm-hmm.
And so he'll say his little Kai-isms towards me or towards Philip. And when he speaks to Philip in a way that's not appropriate, I will tell him, you will not speak to my husband that way.
Yep.
The first time I ever heard Philip defend me to one of our children, I mean, ferociously, you will not speak to my wife in that manner.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it affirmed me so much.
Mm-hmm.
It put that whole situation
Mm-hmm.
back in the boundaries.
Yeah.
So, and I just saw a text message that popped up, and I just have to let Terry know I am defending my husband. He did not mess up his mustache. He's trying something new, y'all.
Trying something new, you know.
Just,
Just a little different.
trying something new.
It's a little different.
And I like the way it kisses. That, you know.
Come on now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep it shaved now, Terry. Keep it shaved.
Yes. All right, the next one, I think we're at number 5. This is keeping secrets.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Secrets are killers.
Yep.
Okay, we can call them secrets, but you know what they are? They lies, y'all.
Come on.
They're lies. Secret is nothing but a lie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're not telling somebody that a truth exists or
Mhm.
that something is real, that's just a lie. You know, that's just being manipulative. It's just covering things up. Manipulative.
Yeah, you got it. You got it. You got it. You got
Yeah. Speaking in tongues on here.
it.
But keeping secrets will destroy relationships, right? So whether it's keeping a secret or even telling a lie,
Mhm.
like intentionally setting out to tell a lie, that is out of bounds.
Right.
That destroys relationships big time.
It's huge.
You know, whether it's, you know, I see a lot of spouses in the area of finances, and it starts out with the intention to protect one or the other
Right.
from what's really going on and to keep the other person safe. But any time that you're not disclosing the truth,
Mm-hmm.
God is not in that.
That's right.
And so you can't keep those sorts of secrets. The people that you're connected with and you're in relationship to, there's a reason why they're a part of your life, right?
Right.
And they're there to help you.
Right.
They're there to help you through the trials, the tribulations, the situations. And now, if there's going to be consequences, there may sometimes be backlash. There may be some things that you don't want to hear. Maybe you're keeping a secret because you don't want to be responsible for something you did.
Mm-hmm.
But that is not valid. That is absolutely out of bounds, especially in a marriage. Do not keep secrets, because I promise you, it's secrets that we sweep under the rug
Yeah.
that eventually become a mountain under a rug that we trip over.
Trip over it.
You know, the enemy doesn't have to get us on big things.
Mm-hmm.
He gets us on the little things.
Yep.
And so honesty is always, always, always the very, very best policy.
Yep.
So don't keep secrets in any relationships.
So with that being said, listen, we know that there are some of you watching this who are in relationships right now. You're married, you're dating. There are some of you singles right now who are trying to figure this thing out. So Carrie and I, we put together a special little thing that we call the cheat code, and it's really designed just for you. So if you are in a marriage and you're looking to try to figure some things out about you and your spouse, or you're single and you're trying to figure yourself out, we want to help you out. So we're going to come back and we're going to give you 4 quick tips. But before we do that, we want to give you a quick little promo of what we got going on. Y'all check it out.
I'm an individual
I'm an individual
with my own way of doing things.
with my own way of doing things.
I have my own strengths
I have my own strengths
and my blind spots.
and my blind spots.
I like things done my way.
I like things done my way.
But what happens when 2 individuals come together and bring 2 different paradigms?
Upbringings and way of doing things.
Miscommunication at a high level.
What if you could hardwire your relationship for success? What if you could understand the why behind actions and speak the same language? What if you possessed a cheat code for your relationship that provided an opportunity for you to always win?
If you're ready for your relationship to level up, don't wait. You need to click the buttons below now. Get started and get your own personalized relationship cheat code.
The cheat code, y'all.
Cheat code, and it's not the kind of cheating you think.
That's right. It ain't that kind of cheating. We
It ain't
talking
that
about
kinda
boundaries. We talking about boundaries.
It avoids the cheating, right?
But I will say this. Listen, if you or your spouse or just collectively, you want to really begin understanding yourself and understanding your spouse at a whole different level, so that you don't get caught up in some of these situations that we're talking about, or you just want to take your whole relationship to a whole nother level. I'll put the link in the chat feature, so you can just click on the link and you can find out more information about that.
Yeah, and we have the couples cheat code, but we also work with singles as well who want to get to know themselves a little bit better before, they get into that place in their life so that they can communicate that, because a big part of this whole talk about boundaries is communication, and it is, defining. And so we need to know who we are and what we value in order to have these boundaries, because everybody has like a different set of boundaries, right? We gave you guys about 6 of the, really, these are definitely out of bounds. But there could be another 6, 7, 10 things that you could agree about that are out of bounds, but mine may look different from yours. And so as we go into this strategy, the first step that you need to take hold of is to define what the boundaries are for you. So that means that you have to know yourself, be connected with yourself, and understand what your values are. And so when I'm talking about values, I'm talking about those things that you absolutely will not compromise, right? Those things that are just, nope, that ain't happening. This is what I value, and I'm not compromising this right here.
Right. And if you're married, it would be really good if you all could define those things together also, right? Once you do it individually and you say, okay, this is where I am,
that's
the other person needs to say this is where I am, but you all need to come together collectively and have a familial definition of what this looks like so you can define it together.
That's right. So, and with that, you have to communicate your boundaries. And so communication is strategy number 2. It's point number 2. This also is really important in a workspace. We spend a lot of time with people in our workspace, and we get fairly intimate with them. And so we come with our own defined sets of boundaries, and you need to communicate that early and often sometimes. In a marriage especially, communicate those boundaries early. And then also, like Philip was saying, in you communicating what your personal boundaries are, then establish those that are like a joint.
Right.
And maybe there has to be some dialogue, some give and take in those things as you're communicating, because one may feel a little bit different than the other about certain boundaries. Right now, we are going through teenage and young adult parenthood.
Woo!
And, there's just so many different variables, and we have to know what's in bounds and both agree on what we allow and afford, what opportunities to our children. And parenting is a place where you need to make sure that if that's going to be part of your marriage, that you're really clear and you really communicate that to each other.
Right.
Because I promise you, they will always try to play one over the other.
Sure do.
And, it's just important as they grow for you all to be on the same page. Because, like, for us, there's 5 children.
Right.
And there's lots of coming and going. I was sharing with someone today.
Woo.
If the door opened to the outside one time, it opened 10 times. Because there's 2 doors to go out. And then when you come back in, so you go out to your car, you come back in. And so imagine, so I want insert, door open, dog bark. Door 2 open, dog continue to bark, door close. Then that happens like 10 times, like no joke. So her post said, a Kunama toddler. And I said, oh no, honey, it's not just raising toddlers, I promise you. Even these young adults and teenagers keep you on your toes. It's a Hakunama parent. What a wonderful phrase. Ain't no rest for days.
That's right.
Yes, it means more worries.
It's rough.
It's okay. It's part of their growing. But the big thing is that we've established boundaries.
Right.
And that we agree about them. Because there will be, we've had those times where there's been like questions about compromising. Hey, can I stay a little bit later?
Right.
Or something will be asked, and I'll say, well, I'll have to ask your dad.
Right.
Like, we need to communicate about that first.
Right.
And they kind of get frustrated. It's like, oh, why can't you just make a decision on your own? But it's important that we are on the same page.
That's right.
That we've communicated about those boundaries. And we've also communicated our shared boundaries with our children.
That's right. That's right.
Mhm.
And think about that. Like if we were not on the same page, think about the wedge that it could cause between us.
Right. So you're like, you let them do what?
Yeah. Yeah.
You let them spend the night where?
You let
Do
them
you
wear
not
what
know-
out?
Do you not know those people's parents?
Right.
I
For
mean,
real.
you know.
Yeah, and it's all kind of things like that. But
you
again,
let them drive my car? They play bumper cars.
Yeah. Children are a boundary in and of themselves that we could talk about, Joe. We could talk about
We
that
should
one.
have stayed out of bounds and not in bounds. No. I wouldn't go back for anything. And yeah, it's so true. No one knows how easy it is when they're little. They just kind of come along.
That's it. That's it.
So true.
So the third one though is really about, when we're establishing the boundaries, keep them simple, y'all. You don't need to have like a thesis for the boundary, right? Like really begin to take it in, understand what it is, understand how you're seeing it, being able to define it very clearly and communicate it simply. It should not be 3 paragraphs.
Yeah, and I think the big thing with that is to remove the contractions.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's good.
it's not like one of those. Y'all ever had one of those books growing up, the adventure books?
Mm-hmm.
You're reading it and it says, if you choose to jump off the cliff, turn to page 29. If you decide to stay in the Jeep and continue down the dark road, flip the book over and turn to page 40.
Right.
It doesn't need to be that complicated. So remove the ifs
Mm-hmm.
and the buts. Well, if this happens, then da-da-da-da. Be set, be clear.
Right.
Yes, there will always be some if, but situations.
Mm-hmm.
But the clearer you are about your boundaries, the easier it makes other people to stay within the bounds and not go out of bounds and cross your line.
Right.
If I make it ambiguous, that's the other thing.
Yep.
So it's not
if it's
only
gray, right.
Yeah,
Right.
it's not only the contractions, but if I make it ambiguous,
Right.
and I stay too much in the gray space,
Correct.
then they don't really know where my line is, right? Because I keep moving it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that moving line,
And
which is nothing but a snake.
That's huge right there when you
that's
talk about
huge.
the moving line, right?
Mhm.
Because literally sometimes we do that. We set a line and we say, okay, it's at the 5-yard line. And we're like, no, I'm at the 10. You know what I mean? And we keep on moving the line down.
Your curfew is 12, but
You can come in at 12:15
Right.
and it's okay, right? So, but when we do that, see, because I was always taught, if you don't keep the expectation consistent and you keep on moving it, every time you do that, you set a new expectation.
that's right.
And with this, like as we talk about boundaries, you're setting a new boundary every time you change it and shift it.
And I think parenting is a good place to say that.
Yeah.
They say, well, but Dad, you let me just stay out till 11:30 last weekday.
Right.
Well, that was because da-da-da-da. And then now you have to give an explanation. If you were just firm and
Yep.
said, these are the boundaries, no.
Yep.
How easy is that? Now, because you've moved the boundary, you've got explaining to do,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And nobody needs explaining to do. And
That's
then
right.
sometimes you're just trying to explain something that makes no sense and you're just chasing your tail.
Yep.
Stop chasing your tail.
You got to stop chasing the tail.
That's right.
And so the fourth, and this is the last one for us, we want to talk literally about setting consequences, right? We got to be able to set consequences. So what is going to happen,
Not spelled right.
and that is not spelled right in there, but consequences.
Senses.
Yeah,
Consequences.
consequences. But anyways, it's supposed to be consequences, right? But
It's
here,
okay.
here's the
Creative
thing.
spelling. I
Here-
like it. Give me a high five.
Boom. Here's the thing. When we set consequences, what that does for us, that lets us know, okay, if that if and then, like if this happens, well, this is where I'm going, right? This is what I'm doing. And one I want to really bring up is specific for marriages. What's going to happen if an argument arises, right? How are you all going to deal with that, right?
Mhm.
So if we are in an argument, which we don't really argue, but if we're in an argument, like what's going to happen, right? So if we're yelling at each other, are there going to be consequences for that, right? Is it going to be, okay, listen, if we ever get to the place where we begin yelling at each other, I'm going to go over here because I got to get myself together. You go over there so you can get yourself together.
Mhm.
And then, give me some time because I'm going to need some time to process. You're going to need some time to process. And then we're going to get back together and, we'll be able to talk it out, right?
Yeah.
So what does that look like? That's one side of it.
Yeah, you have to absolutely be prepared for when people go out of bounds.
Right.
Because it is going to happen.
Yep.
And the more you're prepared, the better off you will be at dealing with it,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
The more firm you will be. And so setting these consequences is extremely, extremely important. And not to mention, when we counsel with couples, people try to handle things, and I think I mentioned this last week, they try to handle things like deep, hurtful things in the midst of conflict.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely one of the most difficult, if not impossible, worst times
To try to handle it.
But if you have like some time out, you have some signals like, code blue, whatever it is, whatever your signal is that, hey, you have just stepped out of bounds.
Right.
Even if you need to say that,
right.
Like you've said something hurtful, instead of just ignoring, giving the silent treatment, withholding sex, and this goes on for days and days and days.
Yep.
And he ain't 8 days and whatever. Then what you got to do is set them consequences.
That's right. That's
to
right.
know that if this happens, then that's what you're going to do.
That's what you're going to do. And I think that's the key thing for us. You know what I'm saying? Being able to set those consequences and make sure that we're good to go. So we've given them 4 today.
Yeah.
We said you got to define it, you got to communicate it, you got to stay simple,
That's
and
right.
you got to set consequences. As Craig has said earlier, Craig said you got to set the rules of engagement. And I think that is so key. You got to set the rules of engagement, because the rules of engagement, that's what it really is, and what it's really all about. I love that one.
What it is, what it was.
It is, what it was. What it's all about.
Y'all, so we nevertheless, we persist. You see, we now look different. So
Yeah.
Sorry about my pause in my speaking, but yeah, we lost
signal, but it's all good.
signal. But we're still here.
Yeah,
We're here.
yeah.
We're here.
So look, I'm gonna say this to you. I hope y'all enjoyed this. Go back,
Yes.
check it out again. Oh, right here. Check it out. Go back, see it again, because we got a lot of rich information on
Yes.
there. If you like our shirts, the Racism is a Sickness shirt, go check out our friends over at www.verb-bta.myshopify.com. Listen, get you one of these shirts. It is the hottest thing going since sliced bread. We're enjoying it. We're hoping you're enjoying it. And we met so many people today who really wanted a shirt also. So make sure you get you one.
So many shirts. And so look, we're going to put the audio back out there. The audio has been recording in our device where it's going to be crisp.
Good, crispy
clear.
audio.
Please share that out. We're sorry for the technical difficulties, but we know because of so many technical difficulties, there's some good stuff in here that the enemy just doesn't want people to hear.
That's all right. That's all right.
Nevertheless, we persist.
We gonna come back harder. We coming back harder.
Right.
See, y'all give
With
us
a
a few.
vengeance.
Y'all give us a few moments. We'll have the good audio up online here in a
Yes.
second, and you can go make sure you subscribe to the podcast, because that's where all the magic is happening, y'all.
That's where it's all stored.
Hey, God bless y'all, man. What we talking about next week?
Mm.
Ooh. So look, next week we're actually gonna come. We're talking about
We're gonna
politics,
talk
y'all.
about it.
Politics
and leadership.
Politics
Politics
and leadership. Y'all better get your popcorn ready. It's gonna be a good one, man.
popcorn.
Edge Life. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
God bless y'all. Peace.
Bless y'all.
You know we had to cap it off with Jesus. Edge life, you're too close to the ledge. We gon' push you forward a few steps ahead. It's that edge life. Oh, gotta get it in your head, baby. Welcome to the edge life. You're too close to the ledge. We gon' push you forward a few steps ahead. It's that edge life. Oh.